Good morning and welcome again. Market Morning Show. There's a Roadhouse. Last call, sponsored by BlackboxStocks. Oh, we have an interesting morning once again. Ender, how are you?
I'm here.
This is good. It is always
That's
good.
that's all I got. I'm here. Good morning.
Battle is showing up, buddy. Half the battle.
Yeah. Yep.
So, before we get into everything, um, something interesting happened yesterday. Something interesting. So I go to get the avocado, and we needed some half and half. Sitting there in the half and half section, and I'm about to buy like the standard store bought half and half. And this lady standing next to me, she's like, you don't want to buy that. Just go down a half mile on the left, and there's a stand. You'll just trust me. Just go. I'm like, cool. So I don't buy it. Um, get my avocado that I needed for dinner. Go down the road, and on the left-hand side, there's this stand, and they sell half and half from cows that live in the area. Like it's in a like an old-time glass container. It is half and half from the cow that lives in the neighborhood. This to me was one of those revelations that I'm still struggling to get my head around. How you can get fresh stuff. Anyways, maybe it's just me. Maybe my mind is just blown to pieces as far as getting under how folks actually live when you're not in the city. How while there's challenges, there's really, really wonderful rewards at the same time. Anyways, that's my observation. Have any observations?
Um, I mean, I'm kind of with you that. I mean, I don't own cows, right? I've never owned a cow, but going from having a cow to having half and half. That I don't know that process, right? Like, I mean, I know how it works, but applaud those people that can take a cow and hand you a glass container of half and half.
Right? I mean, it's fresh. The cow that lives, it might have been in the field right behind. The cow might have been on the green grass. And one of those things that just kind of blows my mind. Uh, the other side lives in the silly city. Anyways, let's get into the shenanigans that we will be faced with for the day. The story is still the same. We're talking about rates. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about everybody wants us to be in a recession. All of these things are in a nutshell being induced by the Fed, their lack of competence on the front end, and they're being possibly over aggressive on the back end that's going to force us in there. So regardless of whether or not inflation continues to rise, regardless of whether or not we enter into a recession, regardless of all of these things, until this cloud starts to lift, we're going to be faced with the same chop, the same heavy moves left and right, up and down. It's going to be our reality. That's what we have. So we have to pick through the data, pick through the information to try to come to a conclusion that's going to be helpful to us being successful during this period in time. And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to understand. This segment of the market that we're trading right now is a period of time in history, just like the bull run was, just like '08 was, just like 18 was, just like the COVID crash was. These are all points in time that allow us to add more tools to our toolbox and understanding how to be better traders. So let's keep that in mind as we're sorting through this. Some interesting information. China continues to lift its heavy hand off of their tech companies. We saw a nice pop on BABA. Tencent got a nice little pop also. Let's see if this continues. If they're actually able to break up and out of this downtrend, it could be a fairly good thing. We had data come in. Once again, mortgage data came in soft. Applications down yet again. Rates rising once again. And we're also noticing that the consumer, while they're slowing down to some degree as far as spending, they're also relying more and more on their credit. That again can have one of those impacts that is not friendly, especially in a rising rate environment. Now, from a data standpoint today, we have crude inventories at 10:30. That's going to be something to watch because, as we all know, the main pieces that are kind of moving us around right now are crude, the dollar, and the 10-year. All of these things are intertwined. So let's keep an eye out for that data coming out at 10:30. Bender, believe it or not, there was actually positive news today to come out.
Which was?
Taiwan Semi. Taiwan Semi basically said that, look, this is really, really good. And they supply Apple and Tesla with quite a few of their chips. They expect revenue to accelerate from basically 25% to 30% over year this year, saying that everything is looking good. They reiterated their guidance. This is good news from a sector that everybody's looking at saying, hey, there's going to be a problem. Hey, there's going to be a problem. The largest chip makers came out and said, yeah, there's no problem. We're printing cash.
No problem. Everything's fine.
Correct. So it's like when you have these battling narratives, you have a company like a giant like TSM coming out and saying this, you have to really start begging the question, where does the truth lie? Is it sector driven or is it company driven? It's like with Amazon. Is it an Amazon problem? Or was it all retail? Was it a Netflix problem or was it all streaming? And I think sooner or later we're going to have to get back to the conclusion that not everything is sector driven, that not all companies are created equal. Some are great, some are not. Other news, PayPal has been awarded the first, well, not the first, but awarded.
Hells, you broke up for me. I don't know if you broke up for anybody else, but
PayPal has been awarded an official currency license in the state of New York. I don't know what this means, but it apparently allows businesses to access the New York marketplace with crypto. Not sure what the impact is, but they are one of 20 recipients overall. That's what I have from that standpoint. What do you have for us, Bender?
Well, we are currently sitting at 4140. This morning we are below the 10 and the 20 MA on the 60-minute. Those are 4143 and 4145. We are above the 50, which is 4128. Interesting also to keep an eye on the 200 on the 60-minute is 4130. So right in here, obviously that 4134 that we've been talking about for a week at least, that 4134 remains very important. Below that, 4110 has obviously been important. And then below that, you have 4080, which we talked about yesterday. That 4079 has now become 4080. That's the 10 MA on the daily. So we got to see, on a pull down, 4134, 4110, 4080. Below that, 4067, 4050. Above as resistance, right now we've got that. We've got to get above 4150 and hold, and then we've got 4170, and then shooting for 4200 if we start pushing up.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. It's like yesterday we were looking, and I'm just going to use SPY terminology. I know you use ES, but yesterday the lines kind of coincided in a lot of ways for that 407-ish area to be dip buy of the day, and it's again on your lines being transferred to SPY as opposed to ES, and they absolutely hit perfectly. Yesterday was a picture perfect day. Scoop that 407 level. Today, when I'm looking at it, again, with your lines and how you're looking at it, this area between 413 and 412.50, that again would be a area of interest that I would look to place scoop on if we do get that dip down and we don't rally from where we currently are. I think yesterday's highs have to be looked upon as being that area of resistance. and then going back to last week the same. So, if you have any advice, any ideas of how you're going to try to play this?
As usual, I try to give it the first 15 minutes to see kind of where we are in relation to those levels that I gave out. And I'll be looking at, listening to the flow and how, trying to get an idea on how they're positioning, for the rest of the week. And let that kind of be my lean. We're still stuck in this same range, right? Which is fine. Like I said yesterday, instead of trying to play for continuation or breakdown, look to, if you want to go long, you got to wait for those support levels and some sort of, confirmation that, okay, this looks like it's going to hold, and then cut quick if it doesn't work. And same thing on the opposite side. Don't short the bottom. Don't short near support unless you get that clear break, come up, retest, and short there. But you can't chase the red candles to the downside. You got to wait until you're up at one of those key areas of resistance and look for that pullback. But it's, let flow be the guide, and hopefully that'll kind of tell us what's going on. Those levels that I give out, if you're not looking for the big move, you can scalp those all day.
Absolutely. And I think people have. It's like you and I have received enough DMs and comments on these levels that we're giving pre-market to where people are making an absolute killing by just looking at them as being areas of interest. Yes. Yep. That's kind of how you look at a line is an area of interest and how to play and watch the price action in those. Speaking of flow, it's like you brought up flow and we'll get to Stockton here in just a second. But yesterday we saw massive amounts of money being pumped into energy names. Energy is the theme. So I'm curious to see how that continues. Flow continued to be bearish on IWM. It was middling to bearish on semis. So semis is a sector that I'm going to look at to see if we get some type of a turnaround in there, especially with what TSM is talking about, because there's a real disconnect there once again. I'm going to look to possibly play TSM out of the gate. It's like that commentary was pretty strong, and the two companies that relied the most heavily upon them would be Tesla and Apple. So if it's there and they're looking good, it's like we have to look at that sector as maybe getting a little bit of love today. So with that being said, Mr. Stockton, what do you have for us?
Hello, good morning. Yes, ABBA, looking at that one. That was going to be on the list for today, but it's always a risk when I put it on there that it's going to do exactly what it did and gap up huge. So it got some dark pool yesterday as well on BABA. They hit it pretty good at 102.01, so still a good line to add to your chart in case eventually we drift back down a bit on BABA, which we may do at some point. But CRM is going to be really interesting here. It still stays stuck between two dark pools I had. The one below is 185.89, and the one above is 187.15. So I'll be kind of seeing the reaction to those two lines. Facebook just drifted down below this dark pool I had at 194.63. So would be watching to see if we maybe get some kind of retest there. I also have a line below on Facebook at 193.45. I put a chart here in the room on coin. It's in this really nice wedge formation that's been kind of like a longer term setup. So we could see some nice momentum either way, whichever way that breaks. I had originally noted to take it short below 69.4, which it did drift a little bit below that today. So we'll see if we get a retest of that above. And then I've got a line below at 67.5. Talking about flow, they were buying next week's puts on coin all day yesterday, but it was kind of like the the opposite of what we're really looking for. They just were loading up as their contract price went against them. So that was kind of an interesting one. So I'll definitely be watching coin. And then in terms of couple other interesting dark pools that came in last night, they hit SPY with $1.6 billion at 415.77 after the market closed, so all in signature prints, which that's kind of like a time delay type of dark pool. And then McDonald's, hadn't seen a ton of dark pool there recently. They hit it with 1 million shares at 248.94, which is 34.5% daily volume. So that's pretty good for McDonald's. Coca-Cola, 395 million at 63.25, which is 30% of the daily volume. And then Sun gave me a good reminder on Goldman Sachs. They hit that one pretty good with 450 million at 321.51. That's 58% daily volume, which is interesting. We saw yesterday the big one was JP Morgan. So the banks, could be good to watch for that flow.
Very much there, Stockington. So, anybody have any questions here in the Roadhouse? Anybody have any thoughts, anything along those lines before we close this out? Very good. So there was a quote, and I think that's something that this should be shared to everybody. Aviator 1 says, Jack, be nimble. Jack, be quick. Jack, don't short that red candlestick. I think that's pretty much on point. Thank you there, Aviator.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's
pretty
about
good.
as solid gets, and I think that we can all learn something from that little quote and his creativity. So with that being said, Bender, do you have anything else?
Nothing else from me.
Well, we open in 23 minutes, so let's settle in. Let's get our minds right. Again, just to re-highlight, I'll be watching kind of like what Stockington is, and Bender. I'll watch the banks. I'm going to try to be patient. ESM, I'm very curious to watch that flow. It is well below where it should be. And if they're reiterating their guidance in an environment where everybody is like the sky is falling, have to take a close look at them to see if there's activity within that sector. Also within energy to see if we get continuation. The big piece of that, again, that I want to remind everybody of, we get more jobs data tomorrow and we get CPI on Friday. To start the week, we were very, very firm in saying that we most likely will chop around in these levels and not really have a breakout or a breakdown. So far, that's exactly what we're doing. So there are moves to be had intraday, but to expect an overall runner that's going to get you 10,000 million percentages should not be the expectation. Be nimble, be smart, be wise. Anyways, y'all have a good day. We'll see you here in a little while.